Welcome to Bet On It. That's right. It is NFL week number 9. We're going to get right into it. Let's bring in Marco and VR. Guys, we've been doing pretty well on the NFL show. We've had some bumps and bruises. Somehow I keep cashing my best bets, even with guys like Trevor Siemian under center, but we will take it. We got some primetime games this week. Thursday night, we have the New York Jets fresh off their upset of the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Indianapolis Colts fresh off their overtime loss to the Tennessee Titans. Double-digit line here. Marco, I'm going to go to you first. Colts 10.5. This one's interesting because I'm leaning towards the under 46. You know, Ralph has told us before these unders coupled with the double-digit favorites have been very profitable.
Yeah, Kelly, the Jets obviously was a favorite play of mine last week with the sandwich spot, the stinky sandwich that they were. But they got that win. And, you know, when we talked about it and the reason that it's set up as a play, did I think they would win the game outright? You know, no, I'm not going to insult your intelligence with that, but I thought they would make a game of it because I thought Cincinnati would be distracted. It was a horrible spot for Cincinnati off of the Baltimore win and having Cleveland on deck. Now you've got the Jets that, you know, they got to be giddy. They just upset Cincinnati and they got to turn around and play in 4 days. And all of a sudden, you know, all the, you know, the jokes are, hey, where you been hiding Mike White all this time? You know, and, you know, they should have been starting him all this time. Well, you know what? Just, you know, calm down. It was one game. It was the Cincinnati Bengals. We've talked about how bad their defense has been over the years, and they were in a spot where they got caught looking ahead. Now you've got an Indianapolis team that basically gave the game away last week. If you watched it against Tennessee, and unfortunately for me, that was my best bet here on the show last week. And I would be looking to fade them because their season would be over, because they're 3 games behind Tennessee and literally 4 with tiebreaker because they already lost both meetings to Tennessee. But 2 things I'll point out. Teams that, you know, before they toss the towel, you got to look for, is there any reason to play? Well, the one reason to play is it is a nationally televised game. It's a Thursday night standalone game. So even if the season's over for Indianapolis, they're still going to show up on a primetime spot like this. Secondly, even though it is, you know, basically mathematically they're done, in my opinion, the fact that Derrick Henry got hurt last week and is going to be out for Tennessee, they might feel they have a slight glimmer of hope to catch them. So you can't catch them if you don't start with a winning streak, and that starts on Thursday night with Indianapolis. Carson Wentz, not a good game last week. I can't sugarcoat it for him. You know, we've tried to build him up over the year and saying that, you know, he actually has been doing enough to win, which he was, until that ugly old Carson Wentz showed up with that ugly pass out of the end zone last week that gave Tennessee the lead late. And then, of course, another turnover in overtime. I'm going to go ahead. Indianapolis minus the points here. I think they get the job done on Thursday night. Bad spot for the Jets traveling on a Thursday on a road game against a team you don't see that often. And with a young quarterback, only 3 days to prepare a game plan, which at least now Indianapolis does have some film on them to be prepared for some of the stuff they ran last week.
Great point, Marco. That's how I was going to kick it to VR was, do you think now with some defensive coordinators having a little bit of tape on White, maybe he won't have a 400-plus passing yard game? I do think this Colts defense is just a little bit better than the Bengals as well. VR, your thoughts on Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, they got a little bit, but listen, the coordinators are going to run the defense that they run, and they're going to make adjustments throughout the game as they see fit. And as games go by, I think they'll have more tape on him and make it more difficult for him. But I don't think immediately because of last game. With all that said, yeah, we shouldn't all of a sudden assume that things are going to change for the better. This is still a team that averages 16 points per game in the NFL. When you do that, you're not going to win a lot of football games. With all that said, they're getting double digits, and the spread becomes the great equalizer. I think it's warranted, though. Indianapolis should be a double-digit favorite in this game. because when you look at the metrics, it should play out like a heavyweight title fight where the one guy just systematically breaks the opponent down, because they're going to do it running that football. When you rush for 4.6 yards per rush, and you could do it against a Jets defense, that's what you're going to do. It's going to chew up clock. And for me, that's why I think you saw that steam come in on the under. One of the groups I work with, that under 46.5, game 311 this morning, under 46.5 Jets Colts. That's a steam move. I haven't bet or released any NFL yet this week, but that is the way I would look at it. I like the under in the game. I like the Indianapolis side. And I don't think, even though I had the Jets last week and they came through for me, wouldn't get too excited. Not a team I'm looking to back, even though you do want to back them. If you're going to back them, you obviously want to do so in the dog spot. But with limited time to prep and all that, I agree with Marco. I like the favorite, and I agree with the short money on the under as well.
All right, Sunday night, Tennessee at the LA Rams. I'm actually going to be at this game. Shout out to my friend Jeff for the free tickets. Too bad the KIV curse got the best of my fantasy team, and I will not get to watch my first draft pick, Derrick Henry, run against this Rams defense, who just picked up my favorite player, Von Miller. So this is going to be a conundrum of a type of game for myself. Marco, Rams, 7.5-point favorite, look like the perfect teaser situation for this week. Your thoughts on this matchup?
Yes, Kelly, it is the perfect teaser situation for this week, and I will be using it in teasers. We'll talk about that in the next segment. I was all set to use the Rams as a monster play this week if Tennessee did pull that win last week, because all of those reasons that I said, Tennessee basically sewed up the division. And after 3 straight big games in a row, Buffalo, KC, and division rival Indianapolis, now traveling to the West Coast to play the Rams, this would be what you would consider a throwaway game for Tennessee. We've talked about it many times. What is the least important game on a team's schedule? Well, it's a non-conference road game. That's what this is for Tennessee. The fly in the ointment, so to speak, is Derrick Henry getting hurt. This definitely would be the red flag of calling for the injured player theory. And we know how important Derrick Henry is to Tennessee. We have seen in the past with other running backs that they are interchangeable. But I do think Derrick Henry is one of those guys that is, not in that same category. He means so much to this team. And Ryan Tannehill is a better quarterback when Derrick Henry's on the field, because they run the football so well. We'll see what happens with Adrian Peterson getting signed this week, the ageless wonder, if he can give them enough downs to counteract his absence. But I'm not going to get involved right now anyways as far as the game straight, but I will take the advantage of using the teaser, and why not? It's the perfect number. We get it down to 1.5. You're just asking the Rams to win at home, and you are getting a little bit of an inflation with the Rams because their stock went up this week. Not because they beat Houston. Got to ask you, Kelly, you couldn't have been happy when you saw the Rams sign Von Miller. That's almost like the Denver's waving the white flag in a division that I feel is wide open yet. Don't bail on the season in the AFC West, but it's a business move. They weren't going to sign Von Miller at the end of the year when the contract was over. So if you can get anything for him, you do it now. Get some compensatory picks in the draft, whatever. That was the move. But everybody's printing those Super Bowl tickets once again for the LA Rams.
They sure are. And yes, I'm very sad. That is my favorite Broncos player ever since he won MVP in Super Bowl 50. VR, your thoughts on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, and real quick, just so you understand, I released one football bet this week so far, and that was in college football. My best bet, which you could watch that show. I just haven't had time. I was at the UFC Apex for the last 2 days, taping for the Final Contender and for 268 on Saturday. And I don't just send out plays to my subscribers. I help manage risk correctly, and I need more time to dig in. I have a lot of information to share. No excuses, but I just want you to be able to manage your risk correctly also, whether you follow, fade, or ignore. Now, I'll get to this game. For me, it's as simple as this. Listen, Derrick Henry's out. We know how pivotal he is to the Tennessee Titans having any kind of success. We know about the injured player theory. We know about the overreaction from the betting markets. All of that are factors we need to consider when handicapping this game. With all that said, let's push that aside. We're looking to make good bets, right? We're looking to make plus EV bets. Who gives a shit? Who wins the game? Who wins the Super Bowl? Who's 5-0? Who's 0-5? Who cares? At the end of the day, did we place enough good bets that we are up money or are we down money? And the good bet is the Rams on a teaser because of where it sits on the point spread right now. Number one, we know it went through one of the most key numbers. After 3, 7's more important, right? And it opened 6.5, went through the key 7, is sitting at 7.5. So you probably don't want to take the worst of it if you like the Rams side now. But on a teaser, you already know that's a plus EV bet. Now you just got to find another one. If you like the Tennessee side, that's a different story. You could make that argument. Well, for me, because I do lean Rams, and here's why. They do need to run the football to have any kind of success for Tennessee. And even though Derrick Henry has averaged, I think, 1.1 yard per rush, rushing yard per attempt less this season than last, he's still they just need him to be able to run the football successfully. He's got over 800 yards already. And the bottom line is Tannehill's not going to have the success he would have otherwise. And that's just, you can't overlook that. So for me, if I'm going to bet this game, the obvious play is Rams on a teaser and tie them up with something on Sunday. And we'll get to that when we get to the teaser segment.
Awesome stuff. I am excited for that teaser segment, and it will be coming up after we do some TNA with Ralph Michaels, talk a little Survivor, and come back from this commercial break.
Marco D'Angelo turned 60 this year, and to celebrate Marco's 60th, he's offering everyone 7 days of all-access service for just $60. That's every play in every sport for 7 days for just $60. That's less than $9 a day. Marco has been in the business for over 4 decades and is enjoying one of his best years ever. Look at these 2021 numbers. Number 1 this year in football, up 89% behind 64% winners. Number 1 this year in football with 5% best bets, hitting 75% of his biggest plays. Number 3 in the NBA over the past 12 months, up 59% in profit. Number 4 in MLB this season, picking up 42% for his clients. Just like fine wine, Marco is getting better with age. Get 7 days for $60 with coupon code Marco60.
Welcome back to Bet On. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by the stat daddy himself, the king of TNA, Mr. Ralph Michaels. And Ralph, you have another chart for us. This is something we just discussed in the college football segment, and that was teams off back-to-back away games. So let's pull up the chart and let you tell our audience what you found.
Kelly, one correction there. It's teams on the second of their back-to-back road games, so not off back-to-back. So, you're traveling and back-to-back home games. And I just wanted to explain why we're showing this chart. There's not much on this chart, as you know. I love color coding my charts, so it's easy to read with red. So you see back-to-back road games in the NFL. 54% September, 50% October, 49 November, 49.6 December. So that really is not a play on, but it's also not a negative that so many people look at. Let's look at back-to-back home teams in the NFL. 50.8% September, October, sort of an anomaly, just in the middle there. No real explanation why. Teams playing back-to-back home games in October, 43%, November 50, December 52.6. But take away, when teams are playing a second straight home game against a second straight road game, this is the chart to the right. You'll see that every month is 50% or below. So if you're reading an NFL write-up and you read oh, this team has an advantage because they're home for a second straight while this team's traveling for a second straight. That's not true. It's barely under 50%. It's not a positive. It is a bit of a negative second half of the year. Road teams, again, are the way to go. October, November, and December, covering over 50% of the time. So no wow information or really bettable, but I didn't want you guys to fall into a trap that it's a negative on those road teams playing away for a second straight week.
Very good data points there. Don't buy in to that old narrative, Ralph. There's another narrative this week, and that is the New York Jets. All of a sudden, I know they knocked you out of Survivor. Luckily for me, I had already played the Bengals against the Jags and narrowly escaped. Otherwise, I probably would have been there with you. But the Jets, double-digit outright winners. Do you have any data points for them?
I do. So let's go back, and I went all the way back to 2000, so the last 22 years. There's only been 78 teams in 22 years, so we get about 3 a year on average, double-digit dogs that win a game outright, and obviously double-digit favorites that lose a game outright. So what does the data tell us? Well, this one truly is as expected. I would guess if you ask most people in a bar, teams that are off a huge double-digit win fall back the next week, and the NFL teams off a loss as a double-digit favorite tend to do better, and those situations do occur. Teams like the Jets, off a win as a double-digit dog, have 30 ATS wins, 44 ATS losses, and 4 pushes, so they have only covered 40.5% of the time. And on the reverse, teams like Cincinnati that lost as a double-digit favorite have gone 45 and 33 against the spread. They have covered 57.7%. So, Cal, I made the assumption that I think most people would think these teams bounce back to the median. Is that what you had in your thought process when we talked about running these numbers?
You know, it depends. The problem is for me, the Jets are just so bad, right? And then they shocked the world, if you will, last week. Does that mean the bookmakers are suddenly going to give them respect on Thursday night? I think not. And on the flip side, I think everybody kind of expects the Bengals to bounce back, but they are in a really tough divisional game against your Cleveland Browns. So yes and no. I do think that it's kind of an anomaly of a type game where I don't think the backers are going to rush to back the Jets just yet, though. I'm not looking to lay double digits with the Colts myself.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, if you look at the box score for the Jets, I mean, they had 511 yards. They almost doubled the yards. This was not a fluke. Let's get a punt interception. Let's get a pick six. This was Mike White making his first start, throwing for over 400 yards. The Jets having over 500 yards. So perhaps all of a sudden, the Jets are just a better team without Mike White. And I know Marco talks about injury systems. I will say this. I was talking to a new handicapper, and he was talking about, the Jets are missing their starting quarterback. I want to fade them. And I reminded him, be very careful. When you have a new quarterback making his first start, an experienced quarterback, like we saw for the Jets, like we saw come in for the New Orleans Saints, you have quarterbacks that a team, number one, hasn't prepped for. Number two, the defensive coordinator doesn't have film. The game planning is a little bit different. So many times a team can rebound off that initial injury and rally around a player who's injured. We'll see how that now works out, where people do have film on Mike White moving forward, whatever his situation is. So just a thought on injured quarterbacks missing that first game. Not always the negative people think.
Well, no, and I agree with that. Look, I definitely was not excited about my best bet with Trevor Siemian, but that Saints defense did what I needed them to do. That being said, let's look at the Packers this week. We know Aaron Rodgers is going to be out for Sunday. Jordan Love making his first debut. I do think it's really important not to overreact. The bookmakers are going to build it into the line as it is, but someone like Jordan Love, who's making their first NFL debut, is that going to be a little bit different than someone like a Trevor Siemian, who's been in the league for a considerable amount of time?
Yeah, and Mike White. People may not know him, but he's been in the league. He's been in the situation. Here's why I wouldn't back the Packers in that situation. Number one, Love is still a young player. Only a couple camps, so he doesn't have that same type of knowledge. And number two, you're talking about being on the road, so both New Orleans and the Jets played at home. A big difference for a young quarterback being able to hear the plays called in easily from the helmet, being able to check for any signs, being able to communicate to his wide receivers and O-lines. Not going to get that same situation on the road.
The good news is all he has to do is throw at Sorensen, and he will be just fine. All jokes aside, I got to look at that one a little bit further. Excuse me. Ralph, do you have anything else for us this week in the NFL?
Couple more, Kelly. NFL week 8 or later. So we're almost halfway through the season. Win percentage of 65 or higher, and you're off a loss as a home favorite. So let's break it down. We know the team is good. You have won at least 65% of your games. You're off a home loss. You're off a loss as a home favorite. Those teams have covered 69% of the time. Guess what? The Baltimore Ravens are off a loss as a home favorite. They apply. Arizona playing San Francisco, also off a loss as a home favorite. So keep your eyes on Baltimore and Arizona, and let's see if they can improve on that system that has been 69% since 2015. One last one. And teams that have a win percentage of 50% from game 7 on, they're off a win as a dog, and now they're at home. So let's set the scenario. Week 6 are on. So you're either 3-3, you're either 4-4, you're either 5-5. You won your last game as a dog, and now you're at home. NFL players know their record. You won as a dog to get to 500. That's a meaningful situation. You are now at home off that positive win at 500. Those teams like Carolina this week, Kelly, have gone 66.7% against the spread. To me, it makes sense. A 500 team off an upset win as a dog. Now they're in front of their home fans. Carolina Panthers, 67% system. We'll see how they do this weekend.
We will see how they do, Ralph. Appreciate your insight as always. That is why you are one of the best. Now, I would normally ask you for your survivor pick, but as I mentioned, you already got knocked out. So instead, I'm going to ask you for help on mine. Typically, I don't like to play divisional games, and I was going to use the Colts against the Jets on Thursday night. And before we started the show, our producer reminded me I already used them. So now I have to go with my second pick, which was the Miami Dolphins. They are a touchdown favorite over the Texans, and I am scared absolutely shitless. Tell me I'm going to be okay with this Dolphins pick, Ralph.
Well, I can't argue the point. Obviously, this week we only have Buffalo as a 14-point favorite. We have the Rams as a 7.5-point favorite, and you have Houston and Dallas in those roles. So to me, Miami is still a desperate team. We had those trade talks and was Tua worried about Watson coming in. I think those are all died down now. A desperate Miami against the Houston team who is last. I mean, you look at the statistical profile in yards per game and points per game. I can never argue playing against this Houston squad, especially on the road.
Thank you, Ralph. Now you guys have my survivor pick for this week in the NFL. Let's bring in Marco and VR to get theirs.
Like our videos, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so you'll always be the first to know when there's new content available.
All right, Marco, you and I have been in lockstep all season long in terms of Survivor, but this week we have some differing opinions. Who is your Survivor pick for NFL Week 9?
Yeah, Kelly, we've been the exact same every week but one. This is going to be the second week that will be different simply because I still have this team available. I'm not sure if you used them or not yet, but this is a week where, to me, there were 3 choices: Buffalo, Miami, or Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh and Miami would be game theory choices. And when I say game theory, just so people playing these contests There's going to be weeks that you have to make a play and take a stand with not as attractive of a team so that you get through using that team and still have some better bullets left for later in the contest, your survivor pool. And Pittsburgh and Miami are those two teams. A lot of people were going to look to do Pittsburgh at home on Monday night against Chicago. I opted not to do that for two reasons. One was coming off that Pittsburgh Cleveland game last week. That was a major revenge game for the Steelers, and it's a huge rivalry game. It was the Browns that knocked them out of the playoffs last season, a season that the Steelers started 11-0, if you remember. And if you know Mike Tomlin and know his history, he has a tendency to play to the level of the competition. That scared the hell out of me this week with Pittsburgh. And with Miami, I almost pulled the trigger with Miami. When I started the week, I said, this is game theory week, and I use Miami because they're playing Houston. And I don't want to go out with Miami. So I'm going to go the safe route this week, Kelly. I have Buffalo left in my arsenal. This is the week I get rid of Buffalo. I advance, move on, and then we try to get creative next week. And remember, last week, I don't know if you have the numbers, but contest here in Vegas, a lot of people went out with Cincinnati. That was, a lot of people looking at the slam dunk play there, and it should have been, but it didn't happen. So that's what you want to see is one of those big favorites get upset because that thins the herd in a hurry.
Yeah, it almost happened to us too, Marco, on Monday night with the Kansas City Chiefs. Thinning the herd is great. There are only 14 people left in my Big Money Survivor League, so I've got to pick and choose wisely here. VR, I did consider the Dallas Cowboys as well, but I really wanted to keep them in my arsenal as a Denver Broncos fan, and what Marco just alluded to, getting rid of one of their best defensive players. Maybe the Broncos have cashed it in. Do you have a survivor pick for this week?
If you haven't used the Colts, you got to use them. You have a 3-5 team that's a 10.5-point favorite against the Jets on a short week, and a 10.5-point favorite should be about a -550 money line. So the market says they're going to win this game 85% of the time. You shouldn't make it any harder than that if you haven't used them. That's how I would approach it. If you're looking for a team under a touchdown game theory approach, and if you haven't used, I would look to the Saints because they're a team that people may not want to back with Jameis out and the question mark about who's going to be a quarterback. But I think this is a good spot for them against Atlanta. So maybe able to move up a spot. If you haven't used New Orleans, that's how I would approach it. But again, I'm not in any survivors, so no choice for me to make.
All right, we've known this since day one that VR is not a survivor player. Hopefully, Marco and I can survive yet another week. Speaking of this week, it is teaser week extraordinaire. Now, we've seen a lot of these lines move already. I already alluded to that one of my legs of my teaser was the Rams. Now, could have used the Packers prior to the Aaron Rodgers news. Really glad that I didn't do that to myself. Could have used the Niners. And now kind of kicking myself that I didn't. But Marco, you're using the Rams as well. Who did you pair them with?
Yeah, I paired them, Kelly, with Cleveland. And this is the classic teaser for us to do. Why? Because we're going to go through all those key numbers that we talk about, the 3, 4, 6, and 7. And we look at the total. We got a total in the 40s. We got a total of 46.5. We say that's the ones where the points are at a premium and it's a rivalry game. And for Cleveland, they can't afford another loss in the division. So big game for them. I like getting them plus the 8.5. Now, we talked about the Rams earlier. I'm only going to add one thing to the Rams here on my teaser. I'm going to have the Rams in almost every teaser I have working this week because I think it's an ideal situation. But I'm also going to do it with something that I do sometimes on the Sunday night games where I have so many live teasers, I'm hoping, going to Sunday night with this. And I think at some point that the market is going to be forced to move the line on the Rams. I think all of the sharps are going to tease the Rams down. The only way Vegas can protect themselves against that is a teaser blocker. and by a teaser blocker, they move the line from 7.5 to 9. We know that, 8.5 is the same difference as far as a number goes for most instances. The 8, yes, you fall on that a little bit more, but 8.5 and 9, they're basically the same number. So not a lot of a big deal of exposure for Vegas there. But come Sunday, if the public going into Sunday night gets involved and bumps that any more at all, I'll have all those open, live teasers working with the Rams minus 7.5 down to 1.5. If I want to have a little hedge on Sunday night, if they drive that line up on Tennessee, you can come back and get Tennessee at a nice number, possibly 9.5 come Sunday. That's a pretty good middle working Sunday night to limit some of your exposure on having everything riding to the Rams. Just my little extra second helping tip for this week.
There we go. All right, VR, who is your teaser for this week?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple as well. And there's not all that many plus EV teasers on the board. The Rams definitely one of them. We touched on that on Thursday Night Football. And I'm going to go ahead and tie them up with the Cleveland Browns. It makes a ton of sense. Number one, I like that the total is low. Number two, I love the fact that the points actually mattered in this matchup in 4 of the last 5 in the series, meaning using these 6 points would have mattered. That's how close the games have been. And thirdly, and most important of all, is that it gets me through those key numbers, and I'm able to get Cleveland a 2.5-point dog up to plus 8.5. So for me, it's Rams minus 1.5 with Cleveland plus 8.5.
I like it. We are all in agreement. That is the teaser that I tweeted out this week. We are going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, got to find out if that deli's back open. They had a nice 2-for-1 sandwich last week. We got some barking dogs and, of course, VR's Steam Game of the Week.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
The Big 5 American sports are all scheduled in November for the first time since November 2020, and we want to celebrate by slashing the cost of all daily packages by 50%, including 5% best bets. Starting Tuesday, November 1st through Sunday, November 7th, $25 daily packages are priced at $12.50, and $35 5% best bets are priced at $17.50. But even better, this is the perfect time to take advantage of WagerTalk's one-day all access. Lock in the handicapper of your choice for one full day for only $39, including when they have a 5% top play that normally sells for $35. But during our 50% slash promotion, you get a one-day all access for only $19.50. This special is valid through Sunday, November 7th, so save the whole week long.
Welcome back to Bet On. I am Kelly Stewart. And while the deli was giving out 2-for-1 sandwiches last week in the NFL, unfortunately this week, the deli owner went on vacation. I don't get this, Marco. We've been rocking and rolling with sandwich games all, basically the whole middle of the season here, and now you're going to screw it up and give me a trap game?
Yeah, Kelly, that's the way we're going to go. I mean, to be honest, it could have been used as a sandwich as well, but because of some other circumstances, and I'll get into that here in a second, we decided to go with this as a trap rather than a sandwich. Now, the sandwich situation in this game involves obviously the New York Giants, who are coming off the Monday Night Football game in which they went and took Kansas City to the limit, did basically everything but win the game. Thank God they didn't as far as our survivor pools went. And now they're returning home. Well, look at who they got up next. Up next is Tampa Bay. Now, the reason I moved it out of the sandwich spot is there is a week in between this game and the Tampa game. They have their bye week. So it's not quite the true sandwich, but it's there. So now I'm looking at the game, and let's do it old-fashioned handicapping. And for me, I've said it over and over again. Anytime you get a big underdog on a big stage, no bigger stage in football than Monday Night Football as far as the NFL goes, and they almost pull off the upset, I like fading that big dog the following week. It's a spot where I just don't see them coming with the same intensity. The public's going to overreact to what they just saw. And what they just saw was the Giants go toe to toe with Kansas City. Hey, we've talked numerous times about the Kansas City problems, the turnovers and such. And, it was the same story last week. The defense can't stop anybody. And when you make crucial turnovers at inopportune times, it's going to bite you in the butt. And it almost cost them the game. But it didn't, and the Giants lost. So I'm not automatically going to jump on them to bounce back. Now, the sidebar, and it's a sad sidebar with the wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Henry Ruggs was in a car accident here in Vegas. I'm sure everybody has heard by now. Early indications he was driving impaired. He's being charged with a DUI, and unfortunately, and very sad, there was a fatality in that crash. This is a lot of distractions for the Raiders. We saw the Raiders already go through this once this season. Now, obviously, I'm not going to try to compare the loss of life with a firing of a coach, but the best thing for this team is to go out on the football field and play football. Go on the road, get away from here, and that's what they're going to do. And I think a lot of people will jump to the Giants' side just because of that. This Raider team has been resilient all year. This division is theirs for the taking. Nobody wants to take the AFC West. And, we saw Denver trade away their best defensive player. This is a spot for the Raiders. I think they show up on Sunday. I don't know what happens moving forward, but the initial game here, I think they rally as a team and get the job done. They've released Ruggs. The Raiders have, cut him from the team. They did that immediately yesterday. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the female that was killed in that accident. But for my betting purposes, I am on the Raiders as the trap game this week.
Thank you, Marco. VR, can you tell me who this week's Steam game of the week is, please?
Absolutely, Kelly. They cost me last week. I had a great day in NFL, and one of my best bets that I thought I made didn't get there, and that was Minnesota. The line moved from a pick-em up to 3 or so, above it in some spots. I'm like, I got a good bet. They didn't get it done, but I'm willing to back them again. I don't hold any grudges. To me, a trade's a trade. And once, whether wins or loses for me, I'm on to the next one. And I just think this is a great spot for them. And Baltimore's given just a little too many points against the team that's going to be able to just stick around the entire game. Listen, I understand why Baltimore is going to get a ton of support. They're going to be in so many teasers, which has zero value. But the recreational player is going to look at it and say, wow, Baltimore just to win at home. We know how good their home field is. We know they're coming in off a bye. We know they're coming in off of upset loss as touchdown favorites against Cincinnati. So they're mad, blah, 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 all of that. Rest assured, it's all nonsense and baked into the cake. And more importantly, none of those 6 points matter because you're only going through that one key of 3. So do not tease. And I don't care if they only win between 1 and 6. It doesn't make it a good bet just because it cashes. But besides that, bottom line is this with Minnesota. They're going to be able to do what they want on the offensive side of the ball because this Baltimore defense just isn't as good as perception may have it. They allow 7.8 yards per pass attempt. And Minnesota is going to be able to throw the football. And once they do that, that's going to open up that run game, which averages 4.5 yards per rush. On the flip side of that coin, Baltimore needs to throw the ball successfully, but you got a Minnesota defense that has at least pass D has done very well. They're right there at that NFL average, little above. I could live with that, and especially going against this Baltimore team. And then more importantly, it's going to be the pressure on the quarterback. That's the one metric that stuck out to me the most. Minnesota is going to put the pressure on Baltimore. Baltimore has been allowing average of 3 sacks per game. That's almost 1 sack above that NFL average. Flip side, Minnesota's well above the NFL average defensively with their sacks. They've been getting pressure to the quarterback. That's the perfect storm for this defense to have a lot of success. I think they'll be in the game from start to finish. You know how high I am on Baltimore, so high I have a future bet on them to win the Super Bowl. But I'm willing to back them or fade them depending week by week where the value is. And giving 6 points to Minnesota is just recency bias at its best. Had Minnesota beaten Dallas even by just a point, this game would have been about 4 at the most and probably would have got steamed down to that key 3. Because of that, we're getting a couple extra points. And I'm all over Minnesota +6 as my steam play this week.
I love to hear it, VR. While I've got your ear, I would love to see if you've got some gold for us.
Oh, absolutely, Kelly. And please, because I don't want any confusion. Let's differentiate the gold because there's a ton of steam. You got to decide whether you agree with it, dig into it, whether you follow, fade, or ignore. Watch the college show this week because I broke it all down and shared a ton of steam that you'd have to go in and figure for yourself what you agree with or what you disagree with. Now, here's some NFL steam, which again, we call it gold, but I haven't bet or released a single play yet to my subscribers in the NFL. 467, LA Chargers -1. 463, LV -2.5. 472, excuse me, San Francisco, bet on the money line. Chargers again, New England, I gave you that Monday, the 457, New England at -3. They're up now to -4. On my best bet, I'll give you that later. Now I'll give you some stamp gold. Like I actually bet this. I released it to subscribers. This is like when I tell you buy Bitcoin, when I tell you buy MicroStrategy, when I tell you that actually took money out of my pocket and unloaded. My future depends on it. Here's some MMA steam for UFC 268. Okay, 4% play I gave Ode Osborne. He's a favorite about -170. I know, a little chalky, but he should be about -250. I love the value there. Nasruddin Imavov. He's about a coin flip right now. That line's going to move. That's a little smaller play. A big bet that I gave the subscribers was also Weili Zhang in the co-main event. That's one of the biggest bets I've made in a while. I will say that now. And please bet responsibly, whether you agree, whether you follow, or whether you fade. That's on you. I manage my risk correctly. What I mean by one of my biggest bets is it just makes perfect sense. It's sports betting 101. They fought 6 months ago. She was a -200 favorite, flash knockout in 30 seconds. Now all of a sudden it's a pick 'em. Hey, we do it in every sport. So how can you not be on it? So those are some MMA for UFC 268. You got some NFL that you're going to have to decide for yourself whether you agree with the steam or not, and go to the college version. There's a ton over there for you also.
I love that VR gold. You know what I love? Those barking dogs. Marco, who is your barking dog for this week?
All right, Kelly, I'm going to give you a barking dog, and then hang on, I'll give you a second helping, the barking dog that just missed. But officially for the show, the barking dog is a team I used in the teaser as well, and that is the Cleveland Browns. And I like the Browns in this spot this week. I know we look at Cincinnati, and, you know, you hear me talk all the time about teams not being as good or as bad as their best games. Well, here's what I can tell you about the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not as good as their performance when they beat Baltimore 41-17. I can also tell you they're not as bad as their performance last week when they lost to the New York Jets. They're somewhere in between. We find out this week exactly where they're at. And I think we're going to find out that Cleveland is still the better team. Yes, Cincinnati is favored, but that's basically just the home field advantage here. What Vegas is telling us with this game is that these two teams would be a pick 'em on a neutral field. Cleveland, their stock is dropped after last week's loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was an ugly game. It was a heated rivalry game. Pittsburgh came to play. Pittsburgh had 2 weeks to prepare. And Cleveland is all banged up. Cleveland's still banged up. Is it going to be Baker Mayfield or is it not? Well, you know what? I don't care. We've already talked about that. Case Keenum can get the job done. He knows the offense. I like Cleveland in this one. Pure and simple. You give me the better defense and getting points, that's where I'm going to land. We also saw news today that Odell Beckham Jr. not going to be with the team this week. Interesting. I think it's addition by subtraction. Really has not helped this team at all and has been more of a distraction in his time in Cleveland. I think it's time to go ahead, and cut the ties with him and move on. I think the team will be better for it. I like Cleveland in this spot to go in and win. They can't afford another division loss the way this division is going. And Cleveland, number 3 defensively in yards per play. I'll go ahead and take them plus the points here, and no problem with the sprinkle. For that bonus second helping, game that I was looking at for the other dog was Denver. And yes, you've got the trade this week with Von Miller. A lot of times whenever they trade away a star, it's almost like the injured player theory. The rest of the team says, hey, we're not waving the white flag. We're not done yet. And they come to play. I think this is a spot where Denver is going to be overpriced. You're going to see the line continue to climb. We're still waiting to see officially who will be at quarterback for Dallas. Either way, it's the second game of the injured player theory as far as Dallas goes. If Cooper Rush starts again, I've told you in the past, you ride the injured team in game 1. If they get the job done, you fade them in game 2. So if it's Rush, no problem. If it's Dak, well, that's the same thing because now you got your starter back and you would think it's even easier for them to play. And that team that played with the extra intensity the week before because their star was out now can relax. The star is back. I think this line's too high for the Denver Broncos. That came very close to being the other barking dog.
VR, we're halfway through the NFL season, and the dogs weren't really barking in the first half. I hope they start barking a little bit more after last week. Tell me who is on your radar for week 9.
This is so easy for me. And honestly, Kelly, they could lose by 50 points, and I'll still be so sure I bet the right side. And the only reason I haven't got to the window yet or released it as a play is because I'm greedy. And the line opened at 7, and now it's sitting at 6.5. And I want 7, and I think it should get there by Sunday. And this is a bet it's not even a bet on the Houston Texans. It's a bet against the Miami Dolphins. I don't even want to dig into the stats. I just want to make it as simple as this. What business, again, does Miami have being a touchdown favorite against anybody? We've gone over this how many times? They haven't won a single home game. They were favored twice. Both times they were favored, they lost the game outright. Like, there's nothing that tells me this team, even, we know Houston's bad. They're the worst, on my power ratings, they're the worst team. But they're 4-4 against the spread. You know why? Because we know they're bad, and the market's priced them correctly. Unfortunately for Miami, there's bettors out there that assumingly must think they're good because they've so underperformed against the betting market. And yet they're still touchdown favorites. And I bet they're going to be in so many teasers as if, they're due to get their first win. That they've got to win at home. They're not going to go winless at home. Houston sucks. They haven't won a road game. Like, what makes you want to back Miami? And more importantly, what makes you want to back them as a touchdown favorite? Again, I don't need to get into injuries. I don't need to get into metrics. I got to keep it as simple as you're a 1-7 team that hasn't won a single home game, that hasn't been able to win even when favored once this season. And now not only do you have to win and cover as a favorite, but you got to do so by more than a touchdown. And I'm going to go lay 110 to win 100 for that privilege. Are you kidding me? If you can't find a better bet than Miami on Sunday, stop gambling. They're going betting the daily number is a better bet. Buying a mega buck ticket is a better bet. Anything's a better bet than laying 110 to win 100 on Miami. And Miami's probably going to go out there and win by 3 touchdowns now. And it's still a horrific bet because they should not be a touchdown favorite at home. And again, the only reason I haven't fired is because I want 7 and it's 6.5 across the board right now. And because that sharp guys agreed with me and ate up all those 7s. Hopefully the squares jump on Miami and I could get on Houston, win or lose. That dog's got bite and it's the right side.
Love those divisional road underdogs. Ralph talked about them just a couple of weeks ago, but I hope for my survivor's sake, the VR is not right and the Texans go into Miami and win that game. Just Miami needs to win by a last-second field goal, kind of like the Chiefs, and we'll be just fine. Survive in advance, baby. That is the name of the game. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, it's time for Best Bets.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
We've reached the midway point of the 2021 NFL regular season, and the Gold Sheet would like to say thank you for another fantastic year. The Gold Sheet has been serving NFL and college football bettors for over 6 decades and continues to make enhancements and improvements into today's digital age. Whether you're a lifelong subscriber, used to buy it at the newsstand, or perhaps have never seen the Gold Sheet, we want to share this week's edition with you. To celebrate Customer Appreciation Week, all Gold Sheet football products are free. That includes the traditional Gold Sheet with write-ups on every NFL and college football game for this week. No codes, coupons, or registration required. All productions are available for download at goldsheet.com.
Welcome to Bet On It, where best bets have been really, really good to me this season. I'm going to keep it rolling, hopefully, here this week. I'm going to take an ugly dog against a team that's been pretty good to me against the spread as an underdog. Now I'm going to bet against them. That's the New England Patriots. Back-to-back road games. I know Ralph mentioned it didn't really matter that much, but we're asking now Bill Belichick and the Patriots to be road favorites, a little bit different than road underdogs. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers +4. It was announced earlier today that Sam Darnold was out. I put in the Slack message board, told the producers, wait just a minute. And sure enough, I start looking and we have PJ Walker. What do we know about PJ Walker? Well, let's see. He played at Temple. Who coached at Temple? Okay, Matt Rule was his head coach at Temple. I do think PJ is going to be a serviceable quarterback. I honestly think he's going to be better than an unhealthy Sam Darnold here. I know that Carolina had just an absolute awful stretch there. 4-game losses after Christian McCaffrey went down. They weren't able to get the running game going, which inevitably affected the rest of their game here. But this is just too many points. No disrespect to the Pats and Bill Belichick, but I'm going to take the 4 with the hometown Cats. I like Carolina in this one. Marco, you have an announcement for your birthday prior to giving out your best bet?
Yeah, Kelly, we're having a little bit of fun this week. Saturday is my birthday, and it's a big one. I turned 60 on Saturday. So what we're doing this week, you guys know we've been having, a good football season. Been having a great 2021. A 7-day package is normally $119. We're going to give away 7 days for $60. The old birthday price. Just use coupon code Marco60. Take advantage of that. And hopefully we have a big weekend. A lot of picks. We're off to a nice start this week as well. Going 2-0 on Tuesday of this week. And we pushed on Monday. So let's see what we can do coming this weekend. And we will have a 5% play sometime this weekend. We're still finalizing our card now. So check out 7 days. Now for my best bet, we're going to go to the LA Chargers and we're going to lay the points. And if my mic suddenly goes quiet, it's because our Philadelphia loving producer shut my mic off during my analysis of this game. But I like the Chargers in this game to get the job done on the road. I know Philadelphia lit it up last week, but guys, pump the brakes. It was the Detroit Lions. We know the Lions, how bad they have been. And last week they were playing a game after they went to LA and, hooked up with their old quarterback. Got to play Matthew Stafford and the Rams, and they played them tough for 3 quarters before they melted in the fourth quarter, losing that game. I'm not sold on Philadelphia. They got me 2 weeks ago when they came into Vegas and played the Raiders, jumped out 7-0, and then I don't know, they went to a strip club or something. They surely weren't on the field for the rest of the game, getting trounced by the Raiders. This defense scares the hell out of me as far as Philadelphia goes. Throw out the Lions. You look back, they gave up 33 to the Raiders, 28 to Tampa. Carolina, we know they don't score a lot of points. They scored 18. KC scored 42, and Dallas scored 41. The Chargers can score points with Justin Herbert. I think they go up and down the field on this Philadelphia team. I don't think Jalen Hurts will be able to trade points with the Chargers and Herbert. I'm going the LA Superchargers. Go ahead and lay the 1.5. And I'll tell you what, this line keeps moving. Don't rush to the window. The public's betting Philadelphia. This line could get to a pick 'em by Sunday because they're overreacting to the last 2 games of the Chargers. I like the Chargers this week.
All right, VR, who is your best bet this week in the NFL?
All right. Well, 2 of Atlanta's, 3 wins have come by 3 points or less, as phony as a $3 bill. And if the Saints hadn't lost that overtime game against the Giants, which they shouldn't have even been in overtime against, we'd be looking at a 6-1 New Orleans Saints team right now, and extremely dangerous. And the reason we're getting value right now with them still is because of the unsettled quarterback situation. Fortunately for the Saints, this year's version came in not needing to rely on the quarterback. They knew coming in there were going to be changes at that position, and they were well equipped to handle it, as they've shown already this season. It's a team that averages less than 200 yards passing per game, and like I said, they're an overtime loss away from sitting at 6-1 in today's NFL, where you have to be able to score and throw the football. So rest assured, they knew coming in what they had to do to win football games. This is a dangerous team, and one you're not going to want to meet if they get to the playoffs. That's the only reason I took a flyer on them on a future at 35-1 to win the Super Bowl. Again, do I think I'm going to cash that ticket? No, obviously. But if I could get to the playoffs with that much equity, I promise you I'm going to make some money off that ticket. And I just love what I see from the Saints. They've done all of this on the road, mind you. This is a team that's supposed to be, a dome team, and yet they've won 3 or 4 games on the road. This is only their third, that they're here. The Saints on the defensive side of the ball are going to be able to just shut Atlanta down. And Atlanta's problem is why they can't win this game is they just won't be able to get pressure on the quarterback. Just look, they average, what is it? What did I write? 1.4 sacks per game. That's well below the NFL average. So the Saints aren't going to have that problem at quarterback. It's not as if they're facing an opponent that's going to be able to apply pressure. Payton's going to have this team ready for this. Do not expect a letdown because they beat Tampa. They know the Saints aren't in a position this season where they're going to have letdowns. That's what I like. If this was, the loaded Saints, we'd be looking at them as 8.5 point favorites right now with no value. But they're below that touchdown, which I love, that key 7. And they're as undervalued as they come because they only throw for 180 yards per game and don't even have a settled quarterback now. So give me the Saints as my best bet, and let defense in 2021 get me the cover as well. Lay the 6 all day with the Saints.
I love to see it. The Saints is on my list as well. We're going to take our last commercial break, but when we come back, it's time for the recap.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase. Marco D'Angelo turned 60 this year, and to celebrate Marco's 60th, he's offering everyone 7 days of all-access service for just $60. That's every play in every sport for 7 days for just $60. That's less than $9 a day. Marco has been in the business for over 4 decades and is enjoying one of his best years ever. Look at these 2021 numbers. Number 1 this year in football, up 89% behind 64% winners. Number 1 this year in football with 5% best bets, hitting 75% of his biggest plays. Number 3 in the NBA over the past 12 months, up 59% in profit. Number 4 in MLB this season, picking up 42% for his clients. Just like fine wine, Marco is getting better with age. Get 7 days for $60 with coupon code MARCO60.
Welcome back to Bet On. It's time to put a nice little bow on top, wrap it all up, and a nice present for you guys. Thursday Night Football. Both guys say Colts minus 10.5. VR and I, both say we like the under 46. Sunday Night Football says Rams are the right spot in the teaser segment. We might as well pair them with the Cleveland Browns plus 8.5. All three of us gave out that teaser this week. The steam game of the week for VR is Minnesota plus 6. Marco says Vegas is a trap game minus 2.5. Do not fall for the Giants trap, no matter how good they looked on Monday night. Survivor VR said if you want to take the Saints, you could also take Indianapolis. Too bad I already used one of those, so I have to go with the ugly Survivor in Miami, and I am terrified Marco is going to take the Buffalo Bills. Barking Dogs, we've got Houston plus 6.5. VR says, though, just wait for the 7. It's going to get there. The whole public team is going to be on the Dolphins against the Texans. And Marco says the Barking Dog, coupled with his teaser, is Cleveland plus 2.5. Don't forget to sprinkle a little bit on that money line. My best bet, Carolina plus 4 over the Pats. VR, New Orleans minus 6 over the Falcons. And that's right. Marco says the whole world is going to be on the Philadelphia Eagles. This line's getting bet down, so you can wait to bet the Chargers. Don't buy into those last couple of weeks for that team. Thank you guys for hanging out with us each and every Wednesday. Make sure you go to the WagerTalk YouTube channel and check out the college football edition of Bet On It from Ralph, Marco, VR, and myself. Until next Wednesday, let's bet on it.